Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. And it is 4:07 p.m. here on the East Coast, and it is 78 degrees. Beautiful weather outside today. We have some breaking news coming out of Iran. After the talks today, it seems they have totally collapsed. We have breaking news coming out of the Strait of Hormuz where ships are being attacked. We have confirmation of ships being hit in the Strait of Hormuz and massive explosions. You don't want to miss today's show. Make sure y'all like and subscribe and follow depending on what platform y'all on. We are live on Twitch, Kick, Rumble, and YouTube. So if you want to join, come over and join. But make sure y'all smash that like button, hit that bell button so y'all get notified whenever we come on air. But further ado, let's get to the new.
First member may have been killed in an Iranian attack. Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we have breaking news coming out from the Middle East as the Islamic Republic of Iran has just attacked a commercial ship within Iraqi waters after they had announced that they were completely suspending talks with the United States and they would not be pushing any further towards the continuation of talks. This also came just hours after the President of the United States stated that many people were criticizing his approach for absolutely no reason, and everything would end up turning out fine and a deal would be achieved. After the talks ending have been announced by the Iranians, the price of oil is now skyrocketing back towards $95 a barrel from its low that it had seen in recent days of $89 a barrel, while at the same time the Islamic Republic of Iran is continuing to make statements that appear to be lining up with the idea that war is going to be coming soon. CENTCOM has denied any damage caused by Iranian attacks yesterday on the Ali al-Salim airbase. However, we generally are not sure how credible these reports are from CENTCOM, as we've not been able to get satellite picture or video evidence of the condition of the base, and we've also not been able to see additional third-party reports on the condition of the base and the possible or possibility of wounded personnel within the area. We've also been able to hear that Iran is now threatening to not only keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, but it's also threatening to use the Yemeni Houthis to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb. While simultaneously, we've also heard that a British service member has died within northern Iraq, supposedly due to a training incident, although this report of a death is coming out in the midst of ongoing Iranian attacks on Kurdish forces, which may be leading us to the belief that this British service member may have been killed in an Iranian attack. In the meantime, we've also been able to hear that the Israelis have conducted significant airstrikes in the city of Tyre today, and Hezbollah is continuing to fire rockets into the area of northern Israel. Currently, the Israelis have held off from striking Dahya, apparently to do U.S. protests, but we do not believe that this is going to be lasting all that much longer, and we are very sure that the Israelis will most likely strike Dahya, most likely within the next week. We've also been able to hear that at the exact same time, the Ukrainians are continuing to conduct significant drone attacks on the Crimean Peninsula, including the city of Dzhankoy, and we've also heard that Russian oil and refined fuel production is the lowest that it has been in the past 2 decades. While at the same time, the Russians also appear to have had a little bit of a disaster today in trying to shoot down a Ukrainian drone over their territory, and we've also had some other interesting pieces of news to cover from the area of Ukraine. But of course, we're going to be making sure to get through all of this news, starting with our largest stories first, and then moving our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the course of this video. Moving us on and into our largest piece of news that we have at the moment, we were able to hear just recently that according to a UK MTO report, a maritime vessel was hit within the area of Qasr within Iraqi waters, or near to Iraqi waters, just a short while ago. According to the UK MTO report, they have received a report of an incident 40 nautical miles southeast of Qasr, Iran. A cargo vessel was transiting in the Arabian Gulf when a large explosion following a hit from an unknown projectile on the starboard side occurred. The UK MTO is unaware of any environmental impact at the time, and authorities are investigating. Vessels are advised to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity to the UK MTO. We did get this one picture here showing the blast in the side of the hull, and we can also see that this was well on the area of the waterline, at least for the vessel currently, and it does appear that the vessel did take on some water. A video also emerged as well showing the puncture in the hull of the vessel, and also what appeared to be the rushing and foam of water entering the open void in the ship where this explosion had occurred, which we can see in this clip right here. We see the vessel moving by, but we can also see that as it is moving, there's a large gush of water pouring into what appears to be the hull of the vessel.
Have you ever experienced failed harvests because your plants were attacked by mildew, disease, pests, or strong winds or heavy rain? Vivo Sun Grow Tents are designed to help you overcome any.
This may also be suggesting that the strike was very recent by the time of this clip, as it appears that the ship has not been able to bring itself to a stop. Usually in these sorts of situations, ships will bring themselves to a stop due to the threat of ripping the ship apart by continuing at any speed with such significant damage within the hull. This all came right after the Islamic Republic of Iran announced that they were going to be ending negotiations and completely suspending talks with the United States of America, according to the Iranian state-run Tasnim news agency. According to their statements, Iran has stopped message exchanges with the U.S. in protest against the Zionist crimes, which are the actions of Israel and Lebanon, and the determination of Iran's armed forces on all axes of the resistance front to respond to Zionist crimes and open new fronts. The following statement was then made by Tasnim. Tasnim's information indicates that given the continuation of the Zionist regime's crimes in Lebanon, and considering that Lebanon was among the preconditions for the ceasefire, and now the ceasefire has been violated on all fronts including Lebanon, the Iranian negotiation team will stop talks and exchange of texts through intermediaries. Meaning that the Iranians are not even willing to talk to the United States any longer, even using the Pakistanis as a third-party intermediary. Throughout the entirety of the ceasefire, we've actually seen that outside of the very beginning, the Iranians have largely refused to talk to U.S. negotiating teams in the same room, and were largely demanding that talks be conducted through an intermediary, which is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, where Iran and the United States would send messages to each other via the Pakistani consulates and also diplomatic staff that would transmit the messages from one party to the next. We did see that, according to the United States, the talks were going insanely well, and there was really no reason to be concerned whatsoever, because they have this in the bag, and the deal is going to be only a couple of hours around the corner. However, it appears that that certainly is not the case, as the Iranians have now announced that they have completely suspended all talks with the United States of America, which is showing that absolutely no progress is being made, and now it's showing that if there was any progress that was made, there is none now, because they have quite literally gotten up and walked away from the talks. Additionally, we've also been able to hear that just a little bit before this happened, the President of the United States put out the following statement. Iran really wants to make a deal, and it'll be a good one for the United States and those that are with us, but don't the other groups and various seeming unpatriotic folks in my party understand that it's much tougher for me to properly do my job and negotiate when political hacks keep negatively chirping at levels never seen before over and over again that I should move faster or move slower or go to war or not go to war or whatever. Just sit back and relax. It will all work out in the end. It always does. And then just hours later, the Iranians announced that they were suspending all talks and there was going to be absolutely no deal made because the Iranians wouldn't even be negotiating with the United States to finalize any sort of a deal, meaning that a deal is probably a little bit farther than a couple of hours away at this point. As a result, the price of oil has skyrocketed, and we've already seen that the prices jumped from $89.50 a barrel, which was one of the lowest levels that we had seen that in recent weeks, and it's already jumped almost all the way back up to $94 a barrel, nearly a $4 to $5 jump in the course of a single day. We now understand that it's already hit $94 a barrel as well, as you can see right here, which is once again showing us that the situation is starting to spiral out of control once more, and it does appear that the oil markets are freaking out again and are beginning to jack up the prices immediately. We've also been able to hear that at the same time, the president then stated, according to statements made to NBC, that Iran is suspending talks with the United States. It would actually be okay, according to the president. And he then stated, I think we've been talking too much. It doesn't mean we're going to go and start dropping bombs. We'll just go silent and we'll keep the blockade. So it appears that the U.S. position is meet us in talks and talk to us to try and achieve our demands of reopening the strait and ending nuclear weapons programs. And if you don't talk to us, then that's fine. We'll do nothing. So it appears that at the moment, without a doubt, definitely one of the weakest foreign policy positions I've seen, at least in recent times. I've never seen anybody back up talks with the threat of doing nothing. That one's new to me. But outside of that, we also were able to see that additionally, the IRGC Navy did publish footage today, once again showing them in the Strait in incredibly large numbers and an incredibly large force, once again showing publicly that they do control the Strait, and it largely appears to be uncontested due to the fact that the United States Navy and the United States Armed Forces have not taken any direct and significant armed action to be able to break out through the blockade or to show that the Iranians have no actual control over the Strait, and the only reason that it looks like they have any control right now is because the United States is not actively challenging it. No attempts to challenge the blockade have truly been made at this point, and it does appear that once again we're seeing that the Iranians are showing that in full form. The Iranians also published footage of the MQ-1 Predator that was shot down over Qasem Island, which led to a small exchange of fire on Saturday between U.S. and Iranian forces around the area of the Strait of Hormuz, which also involved the death of an Iranian lieutenant. We can actually see the Iranians here showing the footage of the MQ-1 Predator, and then its successful shoot down in that clip right there.
Look, baby, I found a case of canned goods. We have food. What are you doing? Why with a level 5 noob? What do you even see in him?
Oh, save it, loser. Canned food? What a joke.
Canned food? Please. I automated our agriculture days ago. I'm already level 100.
Moving us on out of that bit of news, we then also were able to hear from the Iranians that, additionally, they put out the following statement as well. Advisors to Iran's supreme leader, Mohsen Rezai, stated, "The Strait of Hormuz is under Iran's management, and we will not allow the blockade to continue." That's more so speaking about the U.S. blockade than the Iranian one. So it does appear that the Iranians have made it clear today that, one, they're not willing to negotiate any topics whatsoever. They're not even willing to talk at all. So even the suggestion that they're stalling talks is out of the window. They're not even stalling talks. They've literally ended all of them. They also control the Strait of Hormuz completely, and they're still working on nuclear weaponry. So it doesn't really appear to be that positive of a situation today, at least in terms of foreign policy, and that there are a couple of things that the United States could do. Well, really just one. They can restart the war and finish what they started, reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and see that the Iranian regime is eventually brought to its knees and is forced to accept U.S. demands to stop the development on nuclear weaponry. With the current kind of position and foreign policy stance that we're taking right now, which is the weakest one ever, where the Iranians can beat us around, wound U.S. soldiers, destroy U.S. aircraft, and then the U.S. response is that if they don't even want to talk to us, that's fine, we'll just sit around and do nothing. We're not really going to be getting that far off of that kind of a mindset. So I would hope that things eventually change, but given the fact of the current atmosphere and the current decisions that keep being made that can quite literally get no worse than the last decision made, I'm having a little bit of my doubts at this point on what they're going to be doing here in the future. On the bright side, though, CENTCOM, for as much as it's worth, did put out a statement stating that last night at 11 p.m., the U.S. forces successfully intercepted 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeting American forces based in Kuwait. These missiles were immediately defeated and no American personnel were harmed. U.S. Central Command remains vigilant and will continue to protect our forces from Iranian aggression while supporting the ongoing ceasefire. So the U.S. is still saying that the ceasefire is intact in the midst of saying that they were attacked last night, a clear violation of the ceasefire, and they're also saying that no American personnel were harmed, which is either suggesting that American equipment was harmed or destroyed, because they didn't mention that specifically, or this is just flat out untrue and American personnel were harmed, and we're going to be hearing about that in a couple of days. We've already seen that the CENTCOM's statements in prior instances have not been all too reliable, and that's why we have some apprehensions about taking that at face value any longer. We've also been able to hear that out of Tehran, it does appear that the Iranians are continuing to make statements threatening actions of war. As MB Galibov said, the naval blockade and escalation of war crimes in Lebanon by the Israelis are clear evidence of U.S. noncompliance with the ceasefire. Every choice has a price, and when the bill comes due, it will all fall into place. We then also additionally heard another warning by the Iran Central Military Command, the Qatam al-Anbiya, which issued a warning to the Israelis with the following statement. Netanyahu, continuing his acts of aggression in the region, has threatened to bomb Dahia and Beirut and has issued an evacuation warning to their residents. Given the regime's repeated violations of the ceasefire, if this threat is carried out, we warn residents of the northern areas and military settlements in the occupied territories, if they do not want to be harmed, they should leave the area. Meaning that the Iranians are now putting out an evacuation warning for northern Israel and are telling them to leave the area because it's about to start getting pretty toasty. We've also been able to hear that once again, some people like the IRIB are believing that if the Israelis attack Beirut, then the Iranians will most likely break the ceasefire. Which I'd say is pretty obvious due to their statements that if the suburbs of Beirut are hit, they're going to break the ceasefire, considering that statements had already been made along those lines. In the meantime, a new Mossad chief's initiation into the Mossad, or a ceremony to appoint a new Mossad chief, had to be delayed today due to a phone call between the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of the United States in the midst of what's going on in Lebanon. Israel did give an evacuation order for the Dahia suburb, and we did hear that evacuations were being conducted. However, we've also been able to hear that apparently the U.S. has allegedly intervened and has told the Israelis to stop these strikes at the 13th hour. We've also heard additionally that Israeli airstrikes were continuing within the area of Tyre, but we also were able to see here the ongoing evacuations in Dahia and other regions as the Israelis have put out evacuation warnings for these afflicted areas. Additionally, we were then also able to see that some airstrikes by the Israelis inside of Tyre appear to have landed near to the area of the Jabal Amal hospital and have caused some damage to the operational hospital's facility. We see them here wandering around the halls, showing the pretty heavy damage that's been caused to the hospital. And we see some children that appear to have been in the hospital also standing in the hallway as well. And right outside the building across the street, appears to have been completely destroyed. As a matter of fact, the entirety of a building behind the hospital appears to have been completely destroyed right next to it. From what we can tell, it actually appears that it was some form of a car park, because you can actually see that below the roofing here, there is a large pile of cars appearing to be parked under a parking roof, and we can actually see right down there that appears to be the case. There's either some sort of rubble under there and it's some sort of a shed for some aggregate, or it was a parking lot. It's a little bit unclear, but we can see the fire raging still in the direct aftermath of the airstrike. Additionally, we've then also been able to hear that there are more rocket attack warnings that have been issued over Kiryat Shimona, which has been under a continuous attack by Hezbollah forces over the past few hours, and we've also been able to hear once again of the evacuation that's being issued in northern Israel. Currently, the situation right now in the Middle East is not a great one, especially when we add in the fact that the Iranians have also threatened on the side to close the Bab el-Mandeb, which is the entrance to the Suez Canal for the larger part of the Red Sea, which accounts for around 12% of international shipping traffic globally, or international shipping traffic daily. The fact that the Iranians are threatening to close the Bab el-Mandeb and they're keeping the Strait of Hormuz closed in the midst of what we're seeing right now is once again spelling a strategic crisis that is not in our favor at the moment. Right now, the United States of America is taking the weakest approaches that can be seen after the United States decided to take the strongest approach of dropping bombs on Iran back on February 28th and starting the conflict out at large. The United States administration either needs to grow a spine and resume the conflict and finish it in an actual meaningful way to the benefit of our nation, or they need to find someone else who can. The situation right now is as bad as it could have ever been. There is no question or doubt about that, and there's really no way for anyone to argue otherwise unless they're arguing in bad faith. The United States allowing an enemy of the United States to control one of the most important waterways in the world for oil shipments, where 25% of the world's oil is shipped through each and every day, at least in normal pre-war conditions, and then not only that, basically taking the weakest approach. It appears absolutely spineless and puts the ball entirely in Iran's court in the negotiations, and then the ending of negotiations is an absolutely asinine and ridiculous position to take, and has not been defending the United States of America or our Western world at all. Action has to be taken, otherwise the situation will not improve. Moving us on out of the Middle East, we have also been able to hear in the meantime that the Russian Federation appears to be running into some fuel issues of their own, as we have been able to hear that Russian energy producing, at least in the energy sectors, is at a 2-decade low due to the Ukrainian drone attacks and drone campaigns that have been conducted in the Russian Federation. While we do not have any specific video or picture evidence, at least at this moment right now, of the attacks and and the kind of damage that they've caused within the Russian Federation, there has been a significant amount of damage caused in prior days from Ukrainian drone attacks on oil depots, refineries, and also other storage and transportation facilities of the Russians' petroleum industries inside of their country. This has been causing bounding effects throughout the entirety of Russia at the strategic and economic level, and we've seen that in places like the southern front of Ukraine. Fuel rationing is now becoming the norm. We've also been able to see that the Russians were trying to shoot down Ukrainian drones last night, and it looks like they finally got lucky. They finally got one. So let's take a look. We can hear it, and now they're firing, and it looks like it got hit, and it came down on top of them. So I guess they got it, but at what cost?
Я надеюсь, не в Шкоду он въебал. Все живы? Блядь. Да, нормально. Все целы? Ебать, я в канал так быстро никогда не доскакивал. Где мой мотор?
Look, baby, I found a case of canned goods. We have food. What are you doing? Why with a level 5 noob? What do you even see in him? Days ago.
Фу, блядь, все целы?
Pretty wild sort of eclipse at sea. You rarely ever see the air defense fail in that kind of a way. We also got to hear that Ukrainian drone attacks are being conducted around the highways of Dzhankoy, apparently from U.S.-made Hornet Strike UAVs, at least according to Russian military bloggers, which are now causing significant damage at this primary crossroads in Crimea of Dzhankoy. This is one of the major crossroads for supplies heading into Kherson or deeper into Crimea, and it appears that the Ukrainians are starting to cause a bottleneck within this area. We've also been able to additionally hear as well that the Russian zebra camouflage pattern is a disease that is beginning to spread, and more Russians are beginning to paint up their supply trucks and what can only be described as an abominable sort of a camouflage pattern. This one quite literally is like some sort of a motif. I don't even know why in the hell they're painting them like this. It's not like it conceals them at all. If anything, it makes them stick out as a massive target, and it also doesn't work in any form of infrared imagery system. So I don't really know what in the world the point of this is, but it's an absolute delirious state that the Russian military is in to even try something like this and think that it'd have a chance of working. It might have worked in World War I and World War II, but we didn't have advanced imaging and optics systems in World War I and World War II. These days, this kind of stuff is absolutely obsolete. We also get to see this little Ukrainian UGV on the move as well today, just around this whole thing out on a bit of a neat note, which is pretty cool. It has a little trailer, and it also has its little basket on it, carrying a whole bunch of supplies, all the way to the frontline fighting troops. A really neat thing to see. You don't really get to see them like that a whole load, so that's a pretty cool one.
That is all the news we have for y'all for right now. We will be back on if we get any more breaking news for y'all. We see that we do have inbound missiles towards Lebanon. So short airs are still striking and still conducting strikes on Lebanon. We will keep y'all posted on this, and we'll be back on air in a little bit. Make sure y'all drop a like and subscribe if y'all on, well, depending on what platform y'all on, make sure y'all subscribe and follow. But make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that bell button so y'all get notified whenever we come on air. We'll be back on. If we don't have any other breaking news that comes on before we actually come back on air tonight, we will be back on air tonight at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. We are going to have a wild show for you.